Igbo maka na abụ m onye Igbo ihe mme Igbo amaka Igbo amaka if you see me call me onye Igbo maka na abụ m onye Igbo ihe mme Igbo amaka Igbo amaka anywhere I enter they call me onye Igbo maka na abụ m onye Igbo ihe mme Igbo amaka Igbo amaka all over the world they call me onye Igbo maka na abụ m onye Igbo.
Good evening, everyone. We're so excited to welcome all of us to the April edition of our beloved Ńkàtá Ụ, our monthly distinguished speaker series. Our speaker is here already, our distinguished speaker, and very soon he's going to take the stage and talk on the very important topic that we'll be discussing this month. But to kickstart things, I have a very wonderful lady here in our midst, ezigbo Amadi Igbo Ije Jemba. She has a performance that she's going to give us. So ngakponite nwada Pella ka ọ gbagote bịanye anyị ihe ọ kwadoro anyị. Biko, with a resounding round of applause, let's welcome nwada Pella. Because let the clap be a little more encouraging.
Anamanu, owojo na-egboda na ntị echilom. Egwu atụla afọ buru ụzọ. Ọ bụ ihe aka ka a na-eme. Ụmụ Igbo ekele unu. Ana m asị nke onye chiri ya zere. Ọkwụnụ mana ihe a bịara tata bụ nkata ụmụ ibe. Ndị be anyị ka anyị gbakọta n'ọnụ tinye ọnụ n'okwu. Maka na anụkọ mamịrị ọnụ ọgbọ ụfụfụ. Ndị be anyị ka jụọ otu osisi a na-emebe ọfịa mba. Ụmụ Igbo tinye n'ọnụ n'ọchịchị. Igbo dịka agbụrụ bụ ndị eji agamnihu wee mara. Igbo bụ ndị eji azụmahịa wee mara. Igbo bụ ndị eji nka na ụzụ wee mara. Igbo bụ ndị eji ịgba mbọ wee mara. Ụmụnne m, ajụjụ nji wee bịa ụbọchị tata bụ ọchịchị ọ na-asa anyị nsọ. Ụmụ Igbo kulie n'ihe na-achọ imebi n'obodo anyị. Nkịta ọ na-ata ọjị ọ na-akpa ya. Unu n'anya n'ọnọdụ obodo anyị bụ Naịjirịa, ọ dịzị ka ugo eberela na mgbagbu. Ụmụ Igbo biko nụ ka anyị tinye ọnụ n'ọchịchị. Ọ ga-abụ ezigbo ihe ụmụ Igbo ịpụta n'igwe tinye ọnụ n'ihe gbasara ọchịchị obodo anyị, maka na eji ya abịa n'egwu ọnwa. Ụmụnne m, ọ bụrụ ole mgbe ka ndị obi tara mmiri, ndị obi ọjọọ, ndị ihe dị mma anaghị adị mma ga-achịdebe. Ọ bụrụ ole mgbe ka ndị anyị tụkwasịrị obi were ọchịchị ha ya n'aka ga-akwụsị ịma ihe echeta ebebe. Ndị be anyị, echekwa m na ọ ga-aka mma anyị itinye ọnụ n'okwu a, maka na ọkụkọ na-eri ngwere bụ atịtị n'ihi na ọ gaghị eri akata okpo. Itinye ọnụ n'ọchịchị abụghị ịkọta ụmụnne anyị ha. Itinye ọnụ n'ọchịchị abụghị itigbuo zọgbuo. Itinye ọnụ n'ọchịchị abụghị ịgba amasị gbagide mmadụ ibe anyị. Itinye ọnụ n'ọchịchị n'uche m bụ iweta ezi echiche ziri ezi, ịtụpụta ụzọ ọma na ihe ọhụrụ nke ga-enye aka iweta agamnihu nke obodo anyị. Ụmụnne m, lee ka ọnọdụ akụ na ụba anyị sizi ada ma na-alaghachi azụ. Eche m na ọ kwesịrị ka obodo na-aga ihe kwesịrị ịdịwanye mma. Kedụzi ihe kpatara nke a? Kedu ebe mmiri siri wee gbarụọ? Kedu ebe mmiri siri baa n'opi ụgbọgụrụ ụmụnne m? Eche m na o nwere mgbe obodo anyị bụ ide nke Afrịka. Kwa ụbọchị ọbụla, nle anya n'aka nri m ya na n'aka ekpe, ihe m na-ahụ bụ ọgụ, agụụ, ụbịam na ihe ọjọọ dịgasị iche iche. Ụmụ Igbo, kedu ka unu si nọdụ dịka atụrụ akpụ eje igbu, okwu ya okwu nke o ji azọkwa n'onwe ya? ndị ọchịchị were anyị na-emebi ihe egwuregwu. Olee mgbe ka nke a ga-ebi? Ụmụ Igbo ka m jụọ ọzọ, ọchịchị ọ na-asa anyị nsọ? Ụmụnne m, o nwere ndị emebere ọchịchị? Ọkwa unu maara ma ọ bụrụ na mma atọ n'ọbọ, ọ dịghị mma aka ịtọkwazi na ya bụ ọbọ. Ụmụ Igbo, anyị ga-anọ nkịtị chi were ehihie jie? Anyị ga-anọ nkịtị ncha aba anyị anya? Anyị ga-anọ nkịtị ewu amụọ n'ọgbọ? Nna sịrị na ya na-ekpe ekpere ka nwa ya ka ya, mana gịnị na-emezi ugbu ọ kachasị n'ọchịchị obodo anyị? Obi agaghị adị ndị nna nna anyị ha mma etu isi na anya dị obodo aha nyere anyị n'aka. Ụmụ Igbo kulie, n'oge erugo. Ụmụnne m, ka anyị tinye ọnụ n'okwu a, maka na ọ bụ onye nwere nkakwu bechalata ya ọnụ, onye nwere awọ azọpịa ya afọ. Ndị ọma m ji eje mba, ka anyị tinye ọnụ n'okwu, maka eme ngwa ngwa emeghara ọdachi. Ka anyị tinye ọnụ n'okwu, maka anụkọ mamịrị ọnụ ọgbọ ụfụfụ. Itinye ọnụ n'okwu abụghị ike ọnụ. Itinye ọnụ n'okwu ọ bụghị ịlụ ọgụ, nke o jikwa na-abịa ikpo oke. Itinye ọnụ n'okwu bụ ịbịakọta ọnụ tụọ alo, chọọ ụzọ ziri ezi anyị ga-esi wee gbasoo iji mee ka ugwu anyị lọghachitela anyị, ya na ka obodo anyị dịkwa mma ọzọ. Ụmụ Igbo, kulienụ ka anyị jedebanye aha anyị n'ihe ndị ọzọ dị iche iche iji nweta akara eji ebinye aka atụnyere mmadụ n'oge ndọrọ ndọrọ ọchịchị, ya bụ PVC n'onu bekee, maka na ọ bụ ya ga-enye anyị ikikere itinye ọnụ n'okwu, n'ihi na ọ bụghị sọ naanị n'ọnụ ka ọ bere. Ụmụnne m, Igbo nji eko, ụmụ Igbo nji eme ọnụ, ụmụ Igbo nji eje mba. Eji m ilu Igbo sịrị, ọ bụrụ na ihe emeghị nwata na akpịrị, ọ dịghị ama na ile asọ mmiri bụ nnukwu ihe. Wee na-asị ụmụ Igbo, kulienu ka anyị mee ihe eji mara anyị. Ndewo na ọha na eze na-ege m ntị. Aha m bụ Nwaada Ọzọemena Chinepere.
Biko, we can do better than that. Odimma, without further ado, I would like to invite the Executive Director of the Center for Memories, Mr. Ihani Iboko, to come and welcome our guests and also tell us more about the Center for Memories and the work that we do. Mr. Ihani.
Aha m bụ Maazị Ihani Iboko. Ana m arụ ọrụ n'ụlọ ọrụ Center for Memories. Center for Memories bụ ntụziaka ndị Igbo wepụtara iji kwado asụsụ, omenala na ncheta ndị Igbo. O bidoro na 2017. So na December of this year, anyị ga-ama our 5 years, anyị ga-eme 5 years. Biko kọrọ na ya aka na. So those 5 years, Center for Memories na-arụ ọrụ n'ụzọ dị iche iche. Ọtụtụ atụmatụ ha nwere iji wee kwalite asụsụ ndị Igbo gụnyere ihe dịka ihe ngosi anyị na-akpọ exhibition. So by tomorrow, Saturday, 12 noon, na Center for Memories, anyị ga-emeghe our 8th exhibition nke anyị kpọrọ ọdịnala Igbo Spirituality and Cosmology. Biko anyị na-ayọ onye ọbụla mmadụ dum ka unu gbaa mbọ bịa na ogige anyị na nọmba 2 Ogu Street, Independence Layout, ka unu sonye anyị, ka unu fụkwana ihe anyị na-eme. Anyị nwekwara ọtụtụ ihe ndị ọzọ anyị na-eme dịka our book clubs every third Saturday of the month, the Adult and Children Book Club. Akwụkwọ nke a ga-enebanye anya na izuụka anọ bụ ọ ga-adị mma. Onye dere ya bụ Olisakwe Juakụ. Yeah. So ọtụtụ ihe ndị ọzọ anyị na-emekwa bụ nkata ụmụ ibe nke anyị na-eme tata every first Friday of the month. Mana nke tata ga-adị iche. maka na anyị na-dedicate ya to the memory of one of us, Maazị Chukwuma Innocent. Biko m ga-ayọ mmadụ niile nwantịntị oge ka anyị kwụrụ ọtọ ka anyị wee cheta ọrụ ọ rụrụ anyị n'ala Igbo, ọrụ ọ rụrụ anyị na Naịjirịa, na ọrụ ọ rụrụ n'ụwa niile. Biko for just 1 minute ka anyị kwụrụ ọtọ ka anyị honor his memory. Ka mkpụrụ obi Maazị Chukwuma zuo ike na ndokwa. Biko ka anyị tụbụrụ na. Thank you so much. Ndị na-asọpọtụ ihe anyị na-eme ma na-akwado ọrụ anyị na-ekene unu niile. Mana dịka Oliver Twist, anyị na-ayọkwa maka nkwado otu ọbụla ga-esi wee nyere anyị aka, ma obere donation unu ga-enye anyị iji wee kwalite ọrụ anyị na-arụ na senta. Anyị na-ayọkwa unu ka unu na-akwado anyị mgbe niile. Na-ekene unu n'ụzọ pụrụ iche, m na-asịkwa unu na ka anyị nọdụ ọfụma ma gee ntị n'ihe Maazị Sam Amadi ga-agwa anyị. Mana tupu m pụọ, m ga-akpọlite my boss, ọga m, onye ga-abịa kọwara anyị maka nkata ụmụ ibe na maka onye ga-ekwu okwu na mgbede tata. So m na-akpọlite Maazị Patrick Okigbo. Biko kwalite na
ụmụnne m, ekene m unu. Afa m bụ Patrick Okigbo. Abụ m chairman of the board of Center for Memories. Biko ka m were obere oge kọwara unu maka Center for Memories, nkata ụmụ ibe, and ife anyị ji maka ya wee gbakọọ tata. Center for Memories, dịka ihe anyị si wee kọwa, bụ an organization anyị kpokọbara ka anyị wee nwee ike na-atụle, na-eche, na-enyomi ife gbasata ndị Igbo, asụsụ ndị Igbo, ọdịnala anyị, omenala anyị, ncheta ihe megasigo ndị Igbo. Ị nwezi ike jụọ onwe gị ife mee ha ji wee dị mkpa. Ndị Igbo si na onye na-amara ebe mmiri nọ wee bido mabịa ada ama ebe ọ kwụsị. So agakatakwa iru, ene anya n'azụ, full distance nke anyị kọbago, wee kwado maka nke anyị ka ga-aga n'iru. Ihe anyị akọwago na enwe many programs anyị nwere na the center anyị ji wee na-akwalite ọdịnala ndị Igbo. Many of them were like exhibitions. So ije na our center, ị ga-afụ enwe some permanent exhibitions to be there. Mana from time to time anyị na-enwe routine exhibitions, and one of them ga-ebido tomorrow, and we have worked very hard iji wee kpokọnata that exhibition, and ọ ga-amagbu onwe ya ọ bụrụ na ime ke time and effort, not just gị nwa, mana ịkpọrọkwa ụmụnne gị, ụmụ gị, agbata obi gị wee bịa ịfụ that exhibition on ọdịnala. I promise you that you can learn, you can learn a lot of things from that exhibition. But why can't you na-eme nkata ụmụ ibe every first Friday of the month? An opportunity for us, than a reflector on ndị anyị bụ as a people. And since I do ABDA, every month I achọ a distinguished speaker ga-abịa welu a topic kọwara anyị enwe time reflect on ife ọ na-ekwu, jụọ ya ajụjụ, onwe ike kọwaa, anyị akpalite nkata in the hope na onye na continue kwa na-eche maka ihe ekwu, and ultimately obodo anyị ewe dị mma. Nkata anyị nwee tata, anyị na-eji ya na-elote ezigbo nwanne anyị nwoke bụ Innocent Chukwuma, who dedicated his life to the struggle of democracy and good governance in Nigeria. Right from the time of Mbobe a student, wee ruo n'ọnwụ. If I do nkata ụmụ ibe tata wee na-eloti ya bụ ka anyị wee welite ya ka ndị Igbo fụnọ ụdị ndị a ka anyị na-enwomi, anyị na-achọ ka anyị na-enwomi. Ọ bụrụ sọ ndị bụ ego na-akwụghalị ma ndị na-akpọ onwe ha politician ọsọ ọ na-enwe ife eji mala Igbo, and Innocent was one of our best. Anyị na-asị ka Olisa bi n'eluigwe na mkpụrụ obi ya ka o zuru ike na ndokwa. It's a great honor and privilege to have our distinguished speaker for today. Dr. Sam Amadi was the former chairman of Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission. He was a fellow at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. Until December 2010, he was a special advisor to the President of the Senate of Nigeria. He was director of the Center for Public Policy and Research in Lagos and a senior legal officer at the Human Rights Law Service in Nigeria. He's a member of the Nigerian Bar Association. He was a senior counsel at Gani Fawahimi's Chambers and an associate at Olisa Abakoba and Associates. He was part of Ken Saro-Wiwa's defense team and an author of several books. Sam has a doctorate degree in law from Harvard. He also has an LLB from University of Calabar, a bachelor's from the Nigeria Law School, an LLM from Harvard Law School, a master's in public administration from Harvard Kennedy School. He was lead consultant on several DFID projects, and the list goes on and on and on. What is clear is that Sam is one of our best and brightest, and we are honored that he found time to be with us today to speak on this very important topic, Azọta Ala Azọwa Ute. On that note, please a round of applause as I welcome Dr. Sam Amadi.
Thank you very much. How come, which is more important for me? How many kushi so that I join my ego, how many kushi? As a professor of law and dean now at Ave Maria University in Abuja. Okay. One day, Dr. G also there. Oyibo ko Igbo kiki geji kwokwu a. So I geji Oyibo to Igbo. Because our word is now adjunct to the word. So amen and negwanana. Okuta dempa, but more important na ihe ga-ekwuta in honor of one nwoke Innocent Chukwuma. Innocent Chukwuma nwafọ Igbo urukwu Imo State Nwambise mụ na ya anyị gakọrọ na ihe gbasara students unionism. When I was in Soka, I was Nance official in those days. So obido hụta chọwa ọganihu ụmụ ụwa osi na student activism by CLO, Civil Liberties Organization, and from there he went on. But two things I want to bring out that is important for this discussion about Innocent Chukwuma. Nkembo Akonuche, very important. Ncheta, memory, remembrance. Innocent came from a poor family like all of us, or most of us. So at a young age, he won the Riobok Award for Human Rights. I think about giving to the under 30 who has done great work on human rights. We won the award, yeah, we got award Gamepe claim. So that shows both enterprise, amamihe, iwotomwegi, and how the world is shaping And so I was not surprised he went ahead to achieve a lot. So I have to point that out. Akonuchi. Now, Amadi, Ima, Onwe, Maronwe, know yourself. The philosopher says, man, know thyself. But Ndigbo, Jingwako about that. So it's an honor for me to be called to deliver this lecture on a month that we are remembering innocent. And that perhaps is the pattern for Ndigbo as a people, individually and as a nation. Ńkàtá Ụ, Azọta Ala Azọwa Ute. At the heart of it is the idea that there are many things in the world. Mana don't have the same priority. There are innumerable things, uncountable. A wise person cannot pay attention to everything. Anyị ndị Igbo ndị na-aga ụka Bible somewhere John says there are many things Jesus did that if we are to write it, the whole book will not contain it. So even in writing about Jesus, they focus on what's important. So my presentation will ask Ndigbo, going by our condition today, one of in Nigeria, no one. Kedu Ndigbo kwesịrị ịdị na-eme dịka ihe kacha mkpa? I will talk about the importance of priority. And I argue that all systems of learning, science, culture, arts, literature, have a schema for organizing things. There must be a methodology to organize things in the world, a process. Our attention is a scarce resources. So the challenge therefore is Obodo must find a way to optimize our attention. So this talk is around the fact that we have to prioritize what we think is important. We must be awake when an important news is breaking. We hope to be ready to listen when important stories are about to be told. And we hope to be able to go out and come in when there's need. So, to survive, to flourish in life, requires that we prioritize. We can't do everything. To prioritize, like I said, you have to develop a schema for prioritizing. So today, I'll look at what does that mean for us in Nigeria. First, before we can prioritize, we have to have an idea of what our survival requires. Before you set out on a journey, you have a sense of destination. That's the point I'm making. And that means you must have an accurate diagnosis. That's the Igbo adage. So you must be able to go back and say, what is responsible? And this is important for those who do business strategy. I study some strategy. I do study a lot. And my best book is a book called Good and Bad Strategy. I think probably the best book this decade or so is by Richard Rumelt of University of California, LA Business School. And the key point he makes there is this, and I want to use it. He says, strategy is not about what we should do. It's about knowing what is going on in the world. Getting there, what is going on. So the first work of strategy is to understand the goings around you. A strategist does not first start with what should we do. He starts with making sense. Making sense. So, paying attention, awareness, and processing facts and understanding what is happening around you is very, very important for strategy. So, Azọta Ala Azọwa Ute is a call to prioritize. It tells us that just as things creep under the earth, just as things that creep under the earth are not equal, the ideas and insights we use to organize our life are not of equal consequence and do not deserve the same level of attention. It tells us that our outcome depends on the quality of insights that determine our action. Bad ideas have consequences. Oversight has consequences. Onye baka uteya omegene oranala is the way Igbo solve it up. Onye baka uteya oranala. Bad ideas have consequences. Let me put it clear. If our ideas is to destroy our productivity and our resources and our capacity to organize, then we will face the consequence of that bad idea. So, any nation, any people who want to survive must hunger after the right ideas. Bad ideas have terrible consequences. Azọta Ala Azọwa Ute is a call to awareness. This is important for me. Until we put things in their proper perspective, we cannot take wise action. This is why our ancestors spoke about the eyes, anya, as the most important organ. They say, "Sanya gimiri, wash your eyes or shine your eyes." Nigerian way, "Sanya miri." Anya godokwe, uche godokwe. Anya is very important to us. Vision is central to survival. Of course, the Hebrew Bible says, "Without vision, my people perish." The Igbos would have said the same thing. Anya dempa. We cannot survive except we can see what's happening in the horizon and what's happening around us. And seeing is not just physical sight. Is understanding water. Second thing important for the Igbos is Nte. So we talk about Nte Wonka in my Owerri dialect. We talk about Nte Wonka, meaning somebody who listens well will probably live longer. You hear about wars, you hear about troubles, you hear about pandemic, you hear about issues because he's listening, paying attention. When I was a student at Harvard, at Kennedy School, one of our mentors, Sue Williams, he told us that her teacher then used to tell them, say, what are the secrets of success in life? He says 3 things. 1, he said, be ready, on time, dressed to play. Be ready, on time, dressed to play. Awareness and readiness for action. So the way I put it in my own mental framework is that a people who will survive must have ability to distinguish between noise and signals. Noise and signal. Because when you hear something, you know that this will not last. A wise person who will survive must know which rain requires you to put out a receptacle. Why? Because there's difference between noise and signal. We have to organize information in a chaotic world in an orderly manner to make sense of them. Now, all this is to build up to what I want to focus on, which is the future of Ndigbo in 3 levels. When we talk about Ndigbo, we seem to care so much, or we miss out the 3 dimensions of the Igbo existence. First, Ndigbo na ala Igbo, Ndigbo na ala Nigeria, Ndigbo na mba ụwa. I like to think about that tripod because the world we live today is globalized. So Ndigbo's future is not just future in Nigeria, it's Ndigbo's future in ala Igbo, in Nigeria, outside Nigeria. Okay. So, there are many things that we are asked to do or urging for attention. 1, should we fight to restore Biafra? That's one task we can set for ourselves as leaders. 2, should we fight for the Nigerian presidency. These are the second thing we can dedicate ourselves. Nke mbụ ka anyị gbaa mbọ nweta Biafra. Nke abụọ ka anyị gbaa mbọ nweta ọchịchị president in Nigeria, which is an ongoing conversation. And the third one is ka anyị gbaa mbọ to recreate the great leadership of Emayokpara and Azikiwe and all those people in the old eastern Nigeria. And I'll tell you why these are the three urgent, pressing challenges the Igbos must prioritize. Up front, I take the view, and I've expressed it, that the more urgent and more fundamental thing for Ndigbo is to recreate Ala Igbo. It's not to fight for Nigerian presidency. Even as important as it is, it's more important to recreate Ala Igbo. And I give the idea that if you have 3 Emayokparas or 4 in the 5 eastern states, of course Ala Igbo extends to the Delta, Rivers, and some patch of Kogi and Benue, some small patches. But when I talk about Ala Igbo, this is the central Ala Igbo, which is southeast. So my point has been that if we have 3 or 4 Emayokparas, maybe it's better for us than having the Nigerian president. And that it's better for us to make investment in recreating that dynamism that made us the fastest growing economy in the world, that made us close the gap of IGR between the south. People didn't, if you look at the data, the IGR gap between southeast and north and southwest was huge. Western Nigeria then and eastern Nigeria was huge. It was closed. That made us develop and overtake the rest of Nigeria in human capital. We forget often that Ndigbo, like the Jews, were the least developed in terms of urbanization and administrative system in Nigeria by 1900 and 1914. We were acephalous, local people, ruling in our villages, but we are not structurally as developed as the House of Fulanis or as the Yorubas in terms of bureaucratic resource, which Max Weber gave as the essence of modern society. So if you compare us, we were actually local people, backward. But as such a noted, in a burst of energy, less than 3 decades, we close this gap. So the question is, which of these options are open for us? In answering this question, I want to look at understanding the predicament of Ndigbo in Ala Igbo in Nigeria and the world. Now let's start with Ala Igbo. So I said we start from awareness and we get to action. We open our eyes and ears and we perceive what's happening, what has befallen us, and then we can guess what may befall us again. Apart from awareness, the other very important concept for surviving a difficult world is memory. Ńkàtá, memory. The Igbos recognize the importance of memory and remembering that they call their children such names as Echefuna, Echezona, Lota, etc. To remember is to survive. So the question is, what should we remember? First, we should remember how we succeeded and survived. Oftentimes, we get lost in the bad times and we do not remember the good times. Oftentimes, we get carried away by what others say about us, that we forget who we are truly and what we've achieved. Before 1945, the Igbos were a much less developed and accomplished people compared with their compatriots, the Yorubas and the Fulani. Like the Jews, we are surrounded by societies with highly developed administrative systems. We are the least urbanized, but we had strong values. Values of an agrarian and acephalous society. With these values, we created an equal opportunity society and unleashed tremendous entrepreneurial energy that enabled us to close a century-wide gap between us and the more advanced Nigerian ethnic groups. In real sense, the Igbos leapfrogged. It looks like a miracle, but it's not a miracle. it is the predicted surprise of a convenient social values. So the argument here is that the Igbos overperformed not because of their structure in terms of organization or bureaucracy, but because of values, social capital. Because we are people who loved freedom and recognized no superior, we are bound to be hated by the colonial authorities. We are bold and boisterous. We are also less tactical and self-effacing, which means we run into trouble with other people often. The colonial authorities didn't like this. So when they handed over Nigeria to the Fulanis, of course, they handed over the same resentment and prejudice against the Igbos. Okay? Now, there has been plenty of studies on the importance of social capital to economic and social development. The finding, to summarize, is that social capital helps in coordinating efforts that lead to transformation and development. Social capitals are those values, norms, conventions, and rules of engagement that define how a people relate with one another and to others outside a community. We don't like to discuss about culture, social capital and culture because of the so-called, people deploy it to victimize other people. Nobody wants to talk about culture of poverty. But the truth is that it's a culture that can produce progress or stagnation. As I will say later, Nigeria has 3 republics in one. Nigeria has 3 countries in one. Zamfara Northeast is not the same country in real economic social terms as Lagos, Western Nigeria. Even though the same republic, but different countries. In terms of human development, human welfare index, and human happiness index. So the point I'm making is that even though the same structural dysfunctionality, different social capital has created different outcomes for different Nigerians. And that's why I will press the third option about focusing on our regional development rather than fighting too much for the Nigerian presidency. I will say why that's important. So the Igbos succeeded because they had a social capital that combined efficient personal values and strong social systems. We had communities that were development focused. We had accountable town unions. Most of my professors here are experts at how the town union helped galvanize the Igbo development in the 60s and so on. But the point I'm bringing is that what made us succeed is actually the values that we combined rugged individualism with purposeful communitarianism. We were individualists, but we are also communitarians. Now, what has happened? So, we became the fastest growing economy in the world because we had values and systems of local organization that was able to produce development. But things fell apart quickly. The war altered everything. I remember my village. My mom, I was born towards the close of the war. Many of I can count a handful of my sisters who were married to Northerners. They became prostitutes in the north. My parents told me that we don't usually have those so-called prostitutes who live in brothels. But after the war, some of our sisters started becoming prostitutes in the northern state of Nigeria. Why? Because the war damaged the social morals, the new economy of the war, changed everything. People faced with a strange situation, survival. Armed robbery, highway robbers. I've read some books that documented that the rise of armed robbery was aftermath of the Civil War. So the Civil War destroyed all these things and created a love of money not proportionate to enterprise. You see, the value of agrarian society is that the agrarian societies forced on people the notion of conjoining wealth and work. There's no way, like Okibo said, there's no way you can uproot the tuber, except by Putin, who can harvest yam. It's not possible. The poor people say so. So if you are against society, you learn how to work. Your wealth proceeds almost directly from labor. The Civil War changed all that. Our brothers went to the southwest and started 419. I know people in my village, in fact my village became like headquarters of 419. Advanced Street Front. Now all these headwinds culminated in the displacement of respect and value for excellence, intellectual, professional excellence, and the over-reverencing of money by others. So the Southeast now is a dilapidated social system. There's no difference between us and, in a similar sense, and Northeast. We are just surviving by the residue that are professors, some professionals. If you look at the 18-year-olds, if you map the moral ethnography of 18-year-olds in Southeast and in the Northeast, you will see not much difference. So the argument of my discussion is that in search of ego mbute, ego ibo, money without suffering, we saw a shift in the cultural and social capital landscape of Ala Igbo. And by the way, scholars of culture and development argue that cultural determination of economic development shifts sometimes over some time due to interactions. Cultures change. So you see some entrepreneurial Protestant countries that Maxima talk about. After some colonial experience, wars and other social changes, they accept new culture. I give an example. Ireland. Ireland was one of those countries, because it was Catholic, that we are seen as not enterprising in Europe. But recently, Ireland is now one of the innovative states. Why? Social capital shifts, culture shifts. So in Ala Igbo now, there's a shift away from productivity, from the excellence of leadership. And so the high point of this was in the Fourth Republic, where we saw several traditional rulers in Ala Igbo were confirmed 419 people. Several people in authority, political authority, and even in religious authority. So, in other words, the state of play in Ala Igbo today is that we are a disorganized, morally disorganized, and disoriented society. We cannot recreate the level of leadership that we had in the 60s under Muhammad, under Zik, under Mbono Zike, and several other people, technocrats who helped them to create that outstanding social, political, economic development. And by the way, not just economic, the political organization of Ala Igbo was better. The ability to put together the intellectual, the politicians, and create a harmony was outstanding. We lost all that. So we are in a miserable spot right now, where Ala Igbo does not have the social capital to become entrepreneurial and productive in the sense we are. And that's why today we are under siege. That's why today we are a people like who are conquered. So I argue that we are not better than the Northeast in real sense of what counts, values. Today our youths are drug addicts, cannibalism. I can't believe it. Cannibalism. Itu egwu chukwu na egwu mmadụ don't exist anymore. Now, let's look at Nigeria. So we've talked about Ndigbo, Ala Igbo. Ala Igbo today is a place where there's a cultural transformation in terms of civic values. Then look at Nigeria. Of course, Nigeria has always been an unworked proposition. Maybe it's workable, but for now, not working. From 1960, before then, Nigeria had that problem. My argument has been that Nigeria has three fundamental crises from inception. And I call it the theory of incoherence, that Nigeria is suffering from incoherence. Scholars know that, I'm not saying dysfunctionality. Incoherence means that the idea itself is totally contradictory. So Nigeria is premised to be a modern secular democratic state. But by its cultural and institutional normative norms, Nigeria is a neo-feudal theocratic state. Look at our Constitutional Bill of Rights. Beautiful. Adopted from European Convention of Human Rights. The first in Commonwealth Africa to have a Bill of Rights was Nigeria, arising from the Willikis Commission of 1958. But if you read down, Nigeria has brought several caveats to water down, to almost make those rights almost ineffective. So the Nigerian constitutional crisis is actually a crisis of incoherence. So what does that mean for Ndigbo? When our people have lost faith in Nigeria, Buhari's irrational and almost unexplainable aggression against Igbo youths, his failure in managing diversity has resurrected and disoriented the pursuit of Biafra Republic. Resurrected and disoriented. Where we are now is where, apart from the fact that Nigeria is not working, Nigeria is murderous, a failed state. We are also the place where our people have lost any faith in the workability of the Nigerian nation. Now, let's talk about where are we in the world, diaspora. The Ndigbo are doing better in diaspora than at home, than at Nigeria. They are flourishing as entrepreneurs, as scientists, as technologists, as just citizens. They are doing well. We don't have too many stories of Igbo misbehavior in diaspora than in Nigeria. So, ironically, the Igbos seem to have more chance of surviving in diaspora than in Igbo and in Nigeria. Now, to bring it all together, I now argue, how then, what is Azọta Ala Azọwa Ute? Now, my premise is very simple. Nigeria is a state that can go three ways. One, Nigeria may be the first country in the world that will scatter as a result of incompetence and inefficiency. Many countries have scattered because of ethnic crisis, because of Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, several countries. Nigeria's own might be the sheer weight of thorough incompetence and inefficiency. It's a country that its incompetence is worse threat than its ethnocentric crisis. Look at the bombing at the train. The ethnic collusion is small degree, but the total bungling. If you listen to the ministers, what I say, you wonder. So this is a country that may make the first Guinness Book of Record. It will just scatter because of corruption and inefficiency. So Nigeria's first option is that it may scatter. My prediction is that this will not happen in the next 10, 20 years, or maybe 10 years more. Nigeria, inefficient systems last long. They struggle. They still kill hundreds and thousands. They say Nigeria will happen to you. Nigeria will continue to happen to young people. They die. The country struggles until finally it expires. The second option for Nigeria would be that somehow Nigerian leaders come together, develop the will to change the fundamental of Nigeria, whether it's restructuring or, like I talk about it, reconceiving Nigeria as a democratic, modern, secular state in totality. And that's what the Igbos will like. Egalitarian society where all people are equal. The third option for Nigeria would be that smart people in Nigeria agree that Nigeria will not work and start developing their own place. Which means you might have a Nigeria that is a failed state and have Eastern region that is flourishing, or Western region that is flourishing. We have example with Spain. When I went to Spain in the last 3 years, when it had serious crisis, if you walk to Madrid, you see the level of debris. Even refugees are not being removed. When you go to Catalonia, you see a functional state. So it's possible to have Nigeria where regions can create order and progress, even though the whole of Nigeria is lost in disorder and stagnation. People argue that Nigeria will infect you. That's correct. But you can have some measure of sustainable life within a fractured Nigeria. And I see that happening with regional integration, with the down foundation in Southwest, with Southeast here, and so on and so forth. So what's the message therefore? The message is that Igbo leaders should not follow groupthink. The struggle over power in Nigeria has not benefited the people. The Nigerian political system is designed not to benefit even those who hold the political power. I am not undermining or diminishing Igbo presidency. I have been at the forefront on television saying the next people should be Southeast. But I want us to fight with wisdom so that we don't neglect the more important work of fighting this moral decay in Southeast, of restoring that social capital that gave us head start, even when we didn't control real power at the center. Government schools were first built in Southeast before Southwest. All the schools in Southwest were mission schools. Southeast started, the first public library was in Southeast. How did we achieve that? Without holding real political power at the center. The first agency was about 7 months. Zik was a titular head of state, but head of government. So my argument is the biggest challenge for Southeast intellectuals, scholars, and that's why we have a place like this, is to wrestle to reshape Southeast, to make it a place where business, enterprise, innovation, local good governance can triumph. And anybody who has read political science will agree, read very well, that what matters for effective governance is 3 things are very important. 1, an enlightened citizenship. That's why Thomas Jefferson said at the beginning of America, he says, if the people can read and write and the press is free, democracy is safe. The second thing that matters is cooperation, social capital that allows elites to come together and cooperate for the common good. The Igbo cultural values put us on a polar position for elite consensus because we're people who believe in the common good, people who believe in Omonna, Ńkàtá Ụ. So our social value, our universe revolves around collectivity. What we need now is to create that machinery that comes from bottom-up community. Let me salute P2B and the work Anambra people have done with town unions. Town unions is not just for the purpose of building hospitals, schools, and scholarship. Town union should be the bedrock of governance in Southeast. When I was going to run for governor under Abga in 2018, I developed a plan I called Community Action Plan for Prosperity. At the heart of it was reforming local government. And I said that the first local government bill will recreate the local government by having elected local government chairmen and councillors plus elected town union chairmen and secretaries as an expanded ESCO. We can see in Italy, northern Italy, the difference such systems make in wealth. Northern Italy developed more than southern Italy. So the point I'm making is that the Southeast has the resource, the history, the culture to create a region that is democratic, prosperous. And then wait for what happens in Nigeria. I'm a student of uncertainty. We can't predict the future. How Nigeria will play out, we don't know. But we can, the wise man manages what he knows. You plan. We've seen enough of Nigeria's danger that we can plan. So, back to the 3 propositions. Should we prioritize fighting for our own republic? Should we prioritize getting the Igbo presidency? Should we prioritize rebuilding Southeast? Azọta Ala Azọwa Ute says that you build your priority based on fundamentality. What will create a domino effect? What has the capacity to reshape outcome? My argument is that recreating social capital in Alebu getting an Igbo to work with the structures of traditional rulers, with town union, elected town union, with elected government that are accountable, with a citizenry that is educated and active, and with people who assert excellence above money, we give Southeast far more outcomes than the Nigerian president. That's my position. And I say that fighting for our own republic might distract us from getting prepared for when Nigeria will explode by sheer weight of its inefficiency and corruption. Thank you very much. Let me start. There's a new book that's coming out April 19 by a professor in the US called, basically, the book is looking at a research on why divided societies don't have good democracy. So the argument is very simple, that we've not been able to have good democracy in very seriously diverse society. So people argue that Southeast or Ndigbo are one of the most homogeneous people in religion, in value system. So the prospect of democracy working is very high. And the prospect of development happening is very high. So I agree that Biafra, if Biafra worked, Biafra will have two issues. One, I read the Ahara Declaration, it's the first African country, I can remember, that wanted to be founded on an idea, just like the US. Most African countries are formed from either the happenstance of history, conquest, and so on. But this is a conscious effort by an elite to create a nation on an idea. So it has more ultimate prospect of survival. My view about choosing the third option is based on cost-benefit analysis. Today's world is a world where more realism than idealism. If you watch international politics, look at Ukraine, their struggle. The world order has little resource for real humanitarian support. So if you're going to fight this war to create Biafra, except by a divine ex machina, God just creates something and it happens. Or through, like I said, a process of exhaustion, which means the Nigerian state tires out, and it's evident to it that this has to, and maybe we're very close. If you listen to the voice of elites in Nigeria, it's like they are tired of trying to pretend the country is working. If that happens, and we put ourselves in a position where we can see an organized entity prospering, contrasting from Nigeria's not prospering. It creates a mobilizing idea for those who are not accepting the Biafran state to say we can see the rudimentary of this Biafra. So my argument is an argument that says it's safer for us while we still hold this nostalgia and this memory to start improving ourselves, keeping ourselves in a position where we can take that step. And by the way, on a cynical sense, those who have economy and technology will rule their neighbors. If you master technology, have big economy, you can call bluff. The reason why Russia is not yet smoked out of Ukraine is that it has a nuclear bomb. Is that also? Nobody wants to generate a world-scale fight. So if Southeast is such a big economy, maybe more than Nigeria economy put together, and has the technology to defend itself, and even to take action against its level, it has a more compelling case why it can even say we want to pull out. So it's actually on prudential level. That right now, fighting a war where, in my view, you're going to lose, and destroying further the social capital means that even if by, like Sudan, Southern Sudan, we succeed, we would have been lost in bloodshed, we would have created a social capital that the idea of Biafra becomes totally nonsense. Biafra is an idea about value, about cooperation, about social capital. So we should first rebuild that social capital and wait. Who knows what happens tomorrow? We might still be there.
Okay, so must it be an either or? I know you started the seminar, talking about prioritization. We do not have enough resources, not enough human, not enough finance,
not enough attention.
Not enough attention. And then that makes the case for prioritizing.
Yes, sir.
A counter argument could be one group can prioritize,
another group
can prioritize that, and at some point in the future, we all meet at some point.
Yeah.
What's the counter argument?
Well, what I will argue is that, you see, when I'm talking about prioritizing, I'm looking at not just, I'm looking at what you consider very important. Okay, let's take for example, if you accept this notion that division of level, some groups are advocating for Biafra, do it well, some people are recreating the home state. It works if there is a convergence of value. So, we have the kind of atrocity, killings we are having. And we will not have to target our leaders because we understand that part of getting to Biafra is also building the capacity to defend that proposition. So in that case, yes, it can be a convergence. Some groups are pushing the envelope of self-determination. Some groups are building the infrastructure that enables you to make that statement in a world of, this world is a world that the veneer and the veil around violence has been removed. State violence or non-state violence is the ruling norm. So if we have no capacity and violence doesn't mean arms, look at the way corporations are sanctioning countries and forcing them on their knees. If we can create a Google in Nigeria, create an Apple in Biafra land, you can actually decide one day and decide to go away. Again, big question. The first Biafra was a work of a government of Eastern Nigeria. Established government, meet with intellectuals and pass a resolution. You need government. That's my case. That I don't see as a student of international law, I don't see how you can create a state out of a republic without a strong regional government, making a strong case, making it very well, and getting to war. You can't do it as a non-state actor, except you have the violence that can totally shut down the state. So I would say that if we work together and therefore we preserve the Igbo value, the same value that will make us succeed in Biafra, the same value we need to nurture to survive while we wait for Biafra or whatever comes.
Okay, so I'm opening up for comments session shortly. But another question is, we've talked about values, we've talked about social capital, and you're right. All the theories, validate and all. But the manifestation of violence we're seeing in the Southeast is evidence of, a decay of that values.
Absolutely, that's the point. Yeah.
And the inconsiderate poor governance we have seen from the political class is also an indication of the access of that value.
Absolutely.
So if we exist in this society and use of very resources, in describing the Southeast, comparing it to the Northeast, if that is where we are, how do we then begin to rebuild the value system that enables us to work on either of these options or all of them at the same time?
Absolutely, good question. And the lady that gave us the talk in Igbo, talk about
the spoken word.
There's a concept she was using to talk to ourselves. He says it's not violence. You see, the Igbo, what they call palava, the Igbo contribution. I've always argued that there are three great expressions I know in the world: the Hebrew civilization, the Greek, and the Igbo. The Igbo civilization is around deliberation, discourse, we have to, and that's why a center like this is important. And now we'll talk about civic transformation. We have to recognize that there's a limit to government. The Igbo people, groups, cultural groups, institutions, churches, central rulers, retired professors but not tired, we have to constitute epistemic communities to start a new preaching, new evangelism, to win back our society from three things. One, Ojokodepo, I served him as a student advisor when he was former prime minister, a great man. He says we should not federalize and Ariwanize the Igbos. We're not the same people. So people compare us. Oh, Southwest has burned down the house of Bolivia. They removed the cap of Itacha ruler to punish political misbehavior. That's not who we are. We shouldn't copy that way. Or Ariwa people have one voice. Nobody challenges anybody. That's not who we are. So we have to first reduce ourselves from trying to be what we are not. We are a democratic people whose strength lies in conviction, argument, discussion, deliberation. So the first way is to expand what we are doing here so that communities can have the deliberation. Second, we have to recreate authentic legitimate institutions. Town unions elected by in Imo State, they have what they call a political PG and the word of people. Why should you create town union PGs by appointment of the governor? Those institutions should be local and legitimate. And let me give you an example. I went to my village for election in last December and they had a crisis. I will resolve it. And it amazed me that it's not everybody in my community who can vote for town union.
You introduce yourself and try and give a question or comment to just about a minute. The gentleman in front.
Okay, you can hold it. Thank you very much. When I learned that Sam was going to speak, I had to come down from Abuja.
Can you introduce yourself?
Dr. Godwin Udebe, but you can call me Dr. G. Remember, Mazi Patrick, that you almost bundled me out of your show when I was arguing with Obasanjo and Jerome Okolo was moderated in Yaradua Center at your next year because somebody invited me that you were going to talk about something that touches my heart. Presidency of Nigeria. And where Obasanjo was making an arrant nonsensical statement that it was too early for an Igbo to drink for the presidency. That's beside the point. I am not going to speak today as a former associate professor of economics and management in US. I'm going to talk to you today as the chairman, Igbo Leadership Development Foundation, that has been focused on Nigerian president of Southeast extraction. I buy what Sam says, but we fundamentally disagree on one thing. The three options he has given, the people propounding Biafra are misled. I agree. Igbo presidency is what every Nigerian should focus on, and I'm going to say that. Creating a regional development program to develop the Southeast, very, very impossible. I will explain. Look around you. If you are not going to make this a talk show, we have 5 governors in the Southeast, and none of them fundamentally is talking about the welfare or acting about the welfare of the Southeast. Most of them, with me, will not take a single decision without consulting somebody in the caliphate. Are you going to tell me that you can create a Southeast development cohesion when somebody owes his allegiance to somewhere else? Secondly, these are young people I look at. How many of you know where Proda in Enugu here is? Raise your hand. Do you know what they do? How has it been functional? Why has the first director, Professor Godwin Ezekwe, died of heart attack? You know why I raise it up? This is not going to be a talk show. Nigerian government, which controls the superstructure of government from security to everything, will not allow the Southeast to develop. Even if you have the finest ideas of development, there is no political coverage for an investor to openly go and say, I can invest in this in the Southeast. If you allow me, I'm not going to take a bet. I just want to make these fundamental issues. Why do I focus for the past 8 years on President of Southeast Extraction? One, you'll be sitting at the decision making as the chairman who makes the decisions of where development and investment should occur. Secondly, all the potential effective Southeast investors will not be afraid to fall in line. There is no Southeast organization, including Ohanese, that will be a potent vehicle to the realization of Southeast development. Thank you.
My name is Greg Nnamdi Nabike Mbajiogo. I totally agree with the speaker that what is fundamental to giving a headway to the Igbo cause and fundamental is having a think tank born out of true intelligentsias. When I talk about intelligentsias, I'm not talking about just those in our academic sector. I'm looking at technocrats who function as intelligentsias. I'm looking at even businessmen who function as intelligentsias, bringing these people to a round table and putting every resources possible for them to continue to think for us is very crucial. The Igbo think tank is diffusing. We have more of Igbo cultural organization, Igbo identity pressure groups than Igbo think tank. I'll give you one typical example. When there's a problem in Igbo land, that's when you know that you have powerful voices in Igbo land. And these voices begin to exhume as individuals. Classical example is with this crisis with the youth arising from this stuff they call Mkpuru. There's virtually no important Igbo man who didn't take up that subject, addressing the youth, either on his Instagram or Facebook or whatever, or even in the newspapers. Sure. But nobody has asked this question. What is this Mkpuru? How did it come up? Who planted it in Igbo land? There is a think tank somewhere working very hard to destroy the Igbo youth, because they know that the likes of the Osita and my big brothers talking everywhere, that their face is fading out. So their target is to destroy the vibrant upcoming Igbo youth. This thing we call Mkpuru was very carefully synergized and planted amidst our youth. Nobody has bothered where did it come from, who planted it, and how did it suddenly become a trend in Igbo land. Everybody is thinking about how to stop it. I think I'm going to stop here.
Thank you very much.
My name is Gabriel Anajeku, and I want to thank the Prof for the presentation. You mentioned the three types of Igbos, let me put it that way, even though we are all Igbos. The Igbos in Igbo land, the Igbo in Nigeria and Igbo in diaspora. That's the way I wrote it here. And you mentioned that Azọta Ala means we should go back to the basics of capturing the essence of who we are.
Correct.
As a people. Correct. But one area which I just digress, or let me say disagree, I want to agree a bit with your fellow professor there, is on the issue of Igbo presidency. It should be in tandem with Azọta Ala. My understanding is the Nigerian structure as it is now, as we are not a federation, we are more of a unitary state.
Correct.
And therefore, the times of the Okparas, when they have leverage to do so many things, they've used law, constitutions and otherwise to emasculate the local areas from taking initiatives on their own. Let's look at, let me focus on the question so I don't digress. So my question is this. The youths are frustrated. If you are in Igbo land, the youths are frustrated. What did they do? They quickly joined youth groups. So if you buy a land for 100,000 to put up something, the youth will come to collect another 100,000 from you. If you want to modify your fence, they turn to another government, let me put it that way, as a way of getting money, which is, there are no opportunities for them. Because of the place I work and other things, I realize that there are so many critical infrastructures. Nobody talks about them. That is not allowed to operate in the East. Example, the port system. The port system, the gas pipelines, the international airports, the free trade zones, and so many other things that could lead to major development. I would like you to help us to, like, how do we get, in the process of Azọta Ala, get these things to, for Southeast, let me put it that way, to be part of it, if we don't fight for the presidency. Now, I understand that in game of politics, sometimes, which is where our leaders may come short, sometimes you are not getting certain things, but you have a leverage to negotiate. For example, if you are fighting for a senatorial seat, yes, you may not get it, but for some reason, to placate you, an opportunity is given to you to negotiate for certain things.
Sure.
So I want you to, kind of answer.
Thank you very much.
I would like to appreciate you, Prof. I've been following your videos on YouTube and your interviews, and I'm quite happy to be here. Okay, so my question is to build on what Mazi has asked previously. How do we rebuild the lost values from our schools, our societies, and places of worship like churches as we have? Because if you look at our secondary schools and primary schools, exam malpractice has become almost normal. From secondary schools, WAEC, they write WAEC from outside and bring inside the hall. People as young as 12, 15 don't read anymore like they should, or maybe our parents did. Not to talk about universities and the rest. Then, our societies, like you mentioned, how we celebrate people, just wealthy people, maybe with questionable source of income and all. I would like to ask, what are immediate practical steps we could take? Is it possible to achieve what we once had in the 60s with M.I. Okpara and then our general socio-economic status at the times? And then is there any evidence to a society that has degenerated in the past and came back in terms of its values generally? And then I would like to also appeal to the leaders of this event. We need more publicity for this, and I just saw this like 10 minutes before I came here on someone else's WhatsApp status, and I didn't know billboard, no banner. There might be some, but I didn't see any of them. So this is very important for our young people. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Some of the problems in the Igbo society would have to be resolved if most of our intellectuals would adopt his attitude, because he has always been engaging in many issues that are very, very vital and important, that will help us in resolving the Igbo question in Nigeria. First and foremost, I agree with you that when you mentioned Igbos not having prostitutes before the genocide, and all other Igbo had even mentioned it, that in the Igbo traditional society, the Igbos never had some of those problems. That the Igbo society was just such a clean society, no unemployment, no prostitutes, and so forth and so on. And therefore, I agree with you that Igbo land is endangered and devastated, and we are passing through a high level of moral decadence that requires resolution. That resolution, how does it come about? It is my considered opinion that the Igbo educated people are not doing enough. I agree that there is a general failure of leadership in Nigeria and also in Igbo land. But the current crop of leaders in Igbo land today are the most backward we have ever had. I think you remember recently there was a time the southern governors came up with a plan to be meeting from time to time. The first meeting was in Asaba, and the second one was in Lagos. When it came to the turn of the southeast to host that very meeting in Enugu, our governors made sure they absented themselves from that meeting. Then what message were we sending to that side world? That is to say that their masters in the caliphate did not approve that they should be part of the solidarity that was aimed at helping southern Nigeria, to stand on its feet. So they disengaged themselves. They never attended. And only the host governor, the governor of Enugu State, was a man there. So, in other words, we have a crop of leaders, Ndi Dika Hanaso, Ndi Iboyi, Hanaso Ndi Ayoyi, because they are not ready to come out in public and embrace us or to demonstrate that they are part and parcel of what we are doing. Yes. Their agenda is always different from what our people are doing. And if we continue that way, we are going nowhere. The other important issue you raised is the issue of a reconstitution and renegotiation of Nigeria as a modern, secular, and democratic state. In Alibo Development Foundation, my name is Abi Onyike. I'm the secretary of Alibo Development Foundation. We believe that the crisis-ridden Nigerian Federation, or the artificial federation called Nigeria, is on its way out, just like Dr. Sam Amadi said. And that we don't even need to do much of a fight. The time that this crisis-ridden chaotic formation called Nigerian Federation will cease to exist is around the corner. Okay? Now, what would emerge is regional autonomy. And this is where we are going. That's why I think that I give him 80% for this presentation. Let us do something in our own homeland by ensuring that the socio-economic and political steps we take can help us to prepare ourselves for that tomorrow. The Igbo presidency project may be okay, but it is not the final solution. Thank you very much.
Good evening all. After say Omuka, Oyino Ogunike. Mazi
Oyi, I greet you.
Ekene onye ọbụla. Ime uru n'onye ma bụ Ńkàtá Ụ mma asụ Igbo.
o kwere nghọta na ofu ihe ekwu ebe a bụ na ịmara ihe na-eme gị ịmara ọgwụ iji agwụ ya. Ofu ihe na-eme anyị bụ na anyị achọbero ịzụ onwe anyị ndụ, ma anyị chọrọ Igbo presidency ma anyị chọrọ idozi ala Igbo. Those are the two options mụ nwa kwetara nyenwa kwuru. Nke ọzọ bụ ka agbaba maka Biafra. Ekwe m na Biafra ya adị, mana ọ bụrụ na nke a ga-eji mgbọgbata, biko debegolunu nke anwa n'akụkụ. Wee na-asị na ọ bụrụ na anyị chọrọ ka anyị nweta ihe anyị na-achọ, isi na ịchọ Igbo presidency, ndị Igbo kwesịrị izi onye ahụ ozi ka ọ ga-abụ echi apụta isi na iziri mmadụ ozi na ojere ozi eziri ya. Ọ bụrụ onye a gbagide mbọ gbata Igbo presidency, unu akpọrọ ya efulefu, kpọrọ ya sabo, si na o jee nata ndị Fulani pawa. Unu a na-enyekwa pawa? Ndị Igbo nwere ego, ndị Igbo nwere mmadụ. Ịbịakwa n'ụzọ ala Igbo, enwere ndị na-azụgasị ihe n'ala Igbo, ma gọvanọ, ma House of Rep, ma Senate. Adị anyị agwa nkịtị, anyị asị na ndị Fulani ji ewere ha tinye weta na ego ka eji eme ya. Anyị akwado ndị kwesịrị ije Senate, kwado ndị kwesịrị ije House of Rep, kwado ndị kwesịrị ije na gọvanọship. Anyị enwee ihe anyị chọrọ, mana anyị gba nkịtị ka ndị Fulani tinye ya, anyị ga-enyegidekwa complain ụwa agwụ. Ekene m unu.
I also want to thank Okigbo and his team for this. I'm Ben Jiburum. I am a surgeon and a professor. I followed your analysis and I am quite pleased with the way you broke it down. What we are faced with, for emphasis, is such that if you situate the Igbo population in the southeast, in Nigeria, and in diaspora, that alone makes sense that we should try to make Southeast better. Because we have many more Igbos in the Southeast. I also want to say that if you take even the examples you gave, what we achieved in 3-4 decades and what we lost in 3 years of war, and the aftermath of that is really so much that that path should not be thought of consciously. It can only come as something we didn't plan for. We should think along that line. What is the biggest problem? And I'm happy that we have so many young persons here. The bigger problem we have is that so many of our youths are faced with enormous socioeconomic issues, starting with unemployment, poverty, and hunger. An idle mind is the devil's workshop. We all were taught that in primary school. So if you have all of this, we must think of how to meaningfully get them engaged, because that is what those previous governments did. And I want to put it to you so that you help us along these lines. How do you think we can fast track or go back to being able to feed our population?
Very important.
Because in the Igbo culture, even for an individual, a young man going to marry, he will be asked, in a so even as a tribe, a region, a nation, it makes sense that you can feed yourself. So these socioeconomic aspects are important. And if we are thinking of making a place better, then clearly thinking about our youths, their comfort, and they are in the majority, is important. And I want to have your take on how we can drive this process going forward.
Thank you very much. Dr. Amadi, thank you for a very brilliant lecture.
Thank you, sir.
People are alarmed at the behavior of our youth. But it is something to be expected.
Correct.
I don't know whether it was Camus or who said who wrote a book about the wretched of the earth.
Yes, Fanon France. France Fanon.
France Fanon. He wrote a book about wretched of the earth. When you are oppressed, you tend to oppress your neighbor, your friends, your family. If you go to the American black community, they shoot each other, they kill each other. Our youth,
a few questions
are oppressed. And surprisingly, there's unemployment. But today, I'm a professor emeritus, and I went to my office, and I found some people. I said, "Who are you?" He said, "They're working for the teaching hospital." "Where are you from?" One said he's from Bayelsa. One said he's from Benue. He's employed in the teaching hospital. Whereas there are many Igbos, youths, who could be clerks, who could be anything, they will not be employed. Because of this federal system, where board members are selected from all over, they bring their relatives to be employed here, and our youth are unemployed. Second example I want to give you. Years ago, I was friends with a Taiwanese oil man. He was interested in the residual oil wells in the southeast. I brought him to Nigeria. He had a fertilizer plant in Texas that he was ready to transport to Nigeria. He would just bring it the way it was fabricated to Nigeria. But he needed clearance. That time Babangida was in power. We tried to get to Babangida, and we were told that they don't want any fertilizer factory in eastern Nigeria. So to say that we can develop separately and have our people not oppressed, have no precedence, I don't know whether that is realistic. Sure. My name is Emeritus Professor Paul Okoko. Thank you.
Hold on, sir. You can't create a world where everything is perfect. It is true that the Southeast, by the way, when I talk about the Southeast, focus on Southeast, I'm not talking only in terms of Southeast Development Agency or a structure, a vehicle. I'm talking about recreating first the social capital, autonomous systems of development in Southeast communities. Not just creating one, I don't know, I'm a member of an Igbo Salvation Fund. Those are mere good structures, but they are not the essence. The essence is the kind of Southeast we had before even the colonial era and in the First, Second Republic, where you saw community dynamism and where people, the hospital in my village, the school in my village, everything we had, through the grace of Nanu Kebu and others, we gave ourselves. We didn't have where youths can hold the traditional rulers to ransom and nullify decisions made. Those are the indicators of decay. Law and order. I agree with Soludo, the most fundamental thing to put back is law and order. So, G, you are right. And by the way, I believe that the Nigerian Constitution does not so much disable governors from performing. I'm a constitutional scholar. That what we call executive avoidance of law. It happens all over the world. Leaders deliberately disregard laws as if they don't know. And most of these laws are gray. They have gaps. We've seen how much Wike has tried to push recently, challenging some laws and getting convenient judgment from the courts. Tinubu did it in Lagos State. So a structured resistance to the structure of the Nigerian centralized system can create elbow room for doing work. By the way, federal government is not going to stop you from creating real skill acquisition centers and credit transfers, improving human capital, spending money on education. Who will stop you? Healthcare, power. People talk about power. There's enough room for state governors to play a role in all the value chains with smart plans and with public-private partnership. So really, it's not as strangulating as we make it. That's number one. Number two, when I talk about Southeast, and that goes to Oyi has left, I'm not talking only about Southeast governors. I'm talking about sending senators who become democratic intercessors, challenging the Nigerian states to grant autonomy to regions. Sending House of Friends people who have a mission that want to free these zones to reduce Nigeria's chokehold on production, because the Nigerian state is like unproductive. So as much as possible, push it back. So when I talk about the Southeast, I'm not talking about an insular movement, no. I'm talking about a deliberate plan to do everything possible to allow us to recreate economic development and social transformation, including pushing for restructuring, including sending senators who will be fighting, including recruiting those who will fight different levels of knowledge warfare and other warfare. So I want to make it clear that I agree with you, there are constraints. But I'm arguing that if we organize and build our strength, Ivu Ayendanda, that's the Igbo logic. If we are together, united, we can secure ourselves. We can use the court, we can use the National Assembly, we can even use nuisance value, like in Bakwe, whipping a Degro flood. We can do everything to build development. So, and by the way, I'm a champion of Igbo presidency. Nothing I said means that we should throw the towel. I support Peter very well, not very well, and I encourage him personally. I say, go. Even if we don't get the presidency, if we fight well, like he's doing now everybody is acclaiming that an Igbo candidate is one of the best. It helps us to rebuild our social psychology as a people of excellence. It's a value. He wins, he didn't win, it's not the issue. And again, a cautionary note, look at the Jews in America. Probably they dominate the intellectual world, the commercial world, the social world, the media, NGO, everything is them. But I'm not sure they are consciously making an effort to be president. Because maybe the bias is still there. But they have optimized the advantage and use it to ensure that their interest is served. We are living in a world of leveraging. I would like to be the chief of staff to the president, even maybe more than the president. There are many things we can do. We can export our best brain into world-class NGOs that actually determine the policy options of this government. We can mobilize our people in the World Bank that they create additional pressure on the federal government. There are many ways if we are strategic, if we keep, that's why I say our diaspora is a resource. India, Cambridge, Oxford, and live there. Let some live there. Let some live there. In Achebe's book, I think it's one of them sent his son. Yes. Sent his son to the white man, saying, follow these people, learn their ways, in case, so that you'll be able to defend them. So let our people flourish in Oxford, in the World Bank, in Google, everywhere. The most important thing, Kuchai Denaya, let's find a way to network them into a strategic agenda for the homeland. So I'm not saying we shouldn't fight for Igbo presidency. Fight well, but don't forget the primary thing, that even those, and by the way, evidence shows clear statistics. Those who got the presidency, if they don't get it with the right social capital, it doesn't work for them. Katsina has the presidency. Yes, Olotimi has taken train there. Maybe there's a university of, what is the University of Maritime? Maybe it was fraud there again. The real things that count for development, freedom, production, order, income, it's not there. So I don't want us to oversell this competitive Nigerian politics without really thinking about what makes these people tick, respected. It is economy, it is science and technology. Okay, so the other issue, yes, I agree with you, sir, about intelligentsia, and you made a good point. You know, I belong to several groups, Musoko Monna, this and that, Ohaneze Strategy Group, ADF, I work with them, with Prof, who is doing a great job, Prof. Wala and Abia in UK. They do great work. But we need to have real intelligentsia, real think tank groups that are not thinking for episodes. So we are thinking for PDP primary, APC primary. So they are trapped. I talked about my paper. I like to write my paper. I talk about distinguishing between noise and signals. Oftentimes we follow noise. These people will sit back and analyze signal. Then after primary, there will be election. After election, there will be governance. So are they also planning for how governance will happen? Not just getting trapped in the primary. We need real intelligentsia. And the way you define it, intellectuals, policy people, technocrats, including local leaders, very wise people. The way Igbos arrange their society is around functionality and expertise. It's not just by definition and position. We can even bring professors and craftsmen together with warriors, even billionaires. That's the way Igbos leverage on everything for the common good. Okay. So we talk about yes, I actually Ogore. I don't know how people say it in their own dialect, but I actually Ogore Diworomiri Ejaka Kukuru. There's a tree in my place that usually have this water, this leaf, this plant. They say Ogore Diworomiri. Maybe her husband doesn't like her. So we can't be so despondent about what the state are not doing for us. There are many things we can do as a people. If we leverage, take for example now, a state governor can make a state university and get all professors to do about Zoom. You can make Enugu State University a world-class place. If you harness through distance learning, through online education, all the professors abroad, emeritus who are living there, they'll be happy to teach our students through online platform. And before time, it becomes the best place in the world. So there are many things we can do. Let's focus on going beyond the failure of government. That's important for this conversation. And that's why I use the word civic transformation. We are all leaders. Ohaneze. Oha comes first before Eze. Okay. And then somebody asked me that question. Yes, when I talk about focus on Southeast, it includes political activism. We need to have people who are politically active. I'm not talking just about reading poem, reading Achebe. I'm talking about activism. Run election, council. For example, I'm doing a project I call in Imo State, Project 27. And my focus is, it's better for you to have 27 House of Assembly members who are independent, intelligent, strong enough, the governor will work. Because they can impeach him tomorrow. Think about it. All of us are above the House of Assembly. That's a site for real governance in the state. Nobody cares about it. If Southeast House of Assemblies are working, do you know they can pass a resolution, a law, and declare Biafra in the world? They have the constitutional right. They're the ones who have the credibility to make a public declaration for anything. So the message is, let's go back and work hard to repair our houses at the local level. And finally, practical steps, yes. Prof was right, and I think some people mentioned it. When I talk about the youth, I'm not blaming the victims. We are just saying that today, our youths are not like the youths of old, like Zigdem, who went through sheep, stole away to go and learn. Our youths today do not value education for a simple reason. In Nigeria, education has not produced public service work. Education does not produce employment. You can have, Nigeria has, my estimation, over 30% of Nigerian leaders have no certificate or forged one. In fact, professors in Nigerian universities, some universities, didn't pass WAEC, they have a degree. So in a country like that, there's no incentive for young people to want to be excellent. So we're not blaming them, but we are saying that the war does not end in Nigeria. We are saying that if we fashion our existence around a Nigeria that is almost dystopic, a country that's almost like, it's totally inanimate, we will not survive as a people. We need to tell our people a different story. That as a world where excellence counts, where knowledge counts, where these values will still promote you. Live more outside Nigeria than in Nigeria and see Ńkàtá as ancestral home where we come on pilgrimage. The world is changing. So we shouldn't condition our consciousness on Nigeria's low-level excellence. We should be people who look beyond Nigeria and should train our children, our systems to be different. Food security, I think I'll end it. That's a very important one because I said it, if you are self-sufficient, if you are economically, if you have economic power, have science and technology, you will survive. Israel's survival in a hostile environment is simply because they control science. They are rich. And they have network with America that defend them. That's the kind of thing we should be doing. So today, post-Ukraine attack, China issued a directive 2 weeks ago to their people that they should be thinking about food first. China is now saying, everybody, think about localizing your existence. China, from 1978, prospered largely for internationalizing China through exports and all that. But the Ukraine war now tells them that the next world might be a world of self-sufficiency. Can you provide at least 80% or 90% of what you live on? So part of the Igbo going back, recruiting Ńkàtá is also to recruit agriculture, to be a people who can feed ourselves. So that if we suffer blockade, if there's a war, we don't know what will happen next. Nigeria can even attack us, even without any provocation. We don't know what will happen. That's why Ndigbo Jinekuna, and they said, you have to prepare. And I agree with you, part of that preparation is to be able to at least take care of ourselves. Up to 70 to 80. Yes, it's good to have international trade, but people are not realizing that globalization makes you vulnerable. And when you are vulnerable, it limits your capacity for action. But if you can control, America is now realizing they should probably explore more oil, release more oil from the reserve, and maybe subpedal on global, on climate change. We don't know the world we are going to go in. When I go to a world where people are no longer interested in collective survival, everybody would have been thinking about how do I better than my neighbor. The question is, do you have the capacity to survive as a people? I'm always more concerned about tomorrow, about can I survive tomorrow? And that's how a nation should think about. How are we preparing ourselves? Perchance we don't die today. Can I live a good life tomorrow?
Though I'm gonna mix here because I'm not sure on but I'm trying to learn as soon as I can. Na ekenoya ọbụna n'ebe bido from isi luo na anyị wabụ ndị tupu ebe. I'm so happy to be here. Mana ọ wụ ofu ajụjụ nchọ ka njụ. Anyị ga-like ka asaa m ya. Ọkwa ndị Igbo bụ ihe na-atụ ilu wee na-asị na ayụkọ ọma milion ọgba ofufu. Okay. Ebe ọ bụ ndị Igbo bụ ihe na-asị na ayụkọ ọma milion ọgba ofufu. Kedu ihe mezili na onye nke apụta ọyụ ebe dị ya mma, onye apụta ọyụ ebe nke masị ya, a na-ayụkọsizi mamile anyhow. And ebe ọ na-afịa m ahụ na-ewute m na mkpụrụ obi dịka nwaada Igbo mbụ bụ nnọọ ndị anyị na-ene anya dịka ụmụaka na-eto eto ka anyị mụta ihe n'aka ha bụ ndị na-agazi ayụtọsị mamile nwanne. Kedu ihe ị ga-agwazi ndị bụ ndị na-eto eto? Isiokwu m wee bụrụ gịnị? Last time njelu Lagos State wee je zuo ụkwụ na Alaba International Market, wee fụ na ndị Igbo ji ya na-akpa ego ole ọbụla isi chọọ ya na ha na ya, wee si kedu ihe bụ ihe a. I went to Sokoto, ofu ihe ahụ na-eme, wee si kedu ndị a na-ekwudu maka ihe a ọ ndị Igbo nwanne. Before m ga-emepe ọnụ si please I'm looking for ofu onye ga-asị gị nne m ka efe ịchọ, because I was going typically on Igbo attire. Igbos are everywhere, and we are competent people, well-to-do people. When it comes to education, I will money. You come to business, I will money. Everyone I will money. In health, I will money. Can you get messy? Na ya mamweti okelu line. Ane tuiti ai kaya bundia watalananko. Please, iyeneku is this: we should come to an end whereby Iyaga assisi give me oya boye Enugu, oya boye Imo. Let's come together. Can you call 1 million for? That is number one thing I want to say. Then number two, biko na ajua asoye nke na-eto eto. Kedu mgbe a ga-enye this opportunity bụ ndị na-eto eto? When are they going to give youth the opportunity to shine? Mazi has been making so much point on technology, and I'm very much interested in technology, and I love how he has been hitting point on technology. I could remember those days. My granddad told me Nandi community single-handedly picked somebody with interest in a particular field. Why can't it happen now? Why can't it happen now? We have prominent men that can single-handedly train somebody on any field or we're interested on. Because the bazu can check out your Maya Buwoke, Maya Buwai. That Igbo person that we are. Let's be proud that we are an Igbo. And kaine as Igbo. Not as I don't really like it. Malakai Poku as an Igbo man. And Kai Poku in unity. Stand for it, what we stand for. Thank you very much.
Like we know, Russia as a state now, everybody, sentiments and everything, but I believe that they know what they are doing. Some people might not agree with me, but if you have power, the power might come as in presidency, and also come as technology. If we are empowered, we can do a lot. I wanted to ask, but you already answered the question. You said that nobody is stopping us from developing internally. That means we can build a mega city today. Some of us that work in technology. I'm a software engineer. And then I studied computer science, but what we actually taught in school is 1990, or is even older than that. So some of us that succeeded was not because we learned something in school. Sometimes today, you see some people saying school is calm. Not like school is calm, but education is the key, not school, because most of the time you can learn anything outside the school, but you can still get education. Now, what we need is, how do we, you people, I know there's capacity in Igbo land, there's money. I don't want to talk about money now. Money is there, but this money is not being used to actually build mega cities. Okay, internet is a problem. Some of us that probably use internet, some people are using it to just watch maybe jokes. So because there's a lot of depression, and people are using that to pass time. If you take that away, there are other people that are using that to work. And if we have this capacity of building a lot of internet, and people can use it to succeed, we should learn, there's things that we should learn. Education is important, but school, I think it's really already going on because people don't have all the things are not that we need is not actually being shared in school again.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Nwa bụ Igwe Engineer Nick Obi, Igwe Nnobi, na Anambra State. Dr. Sam Amadi si kwuru okwu maka azọta ala azọta ute, ị ga-azọtagodo ala tupu ịzọta ute, mana o nwere ife ọzọ ị chọrọ, ọ bụrụ sọ ala na ute, ị ga-achọ tupu ị ga-akọbara ikwuru maka ya. Ife a ga-akọbara bụ amara m na federal. Ka anyị welu Malaysia and Singapore. Singapore pulled out of Malaysia, yes, and they did wonders. So when you know na ọbụ na anyị pụọ na Nigeria na anyị ga-ada ekwere m na nke ahụ. Ife ọzọ, at our age, Malaysian gas age, we're the Western generation. So I was much hope na Nigeria. Our hope is that if I was in P2B's government 2006 to 2000. So the orientation agency, the people are not interested in orientation.
Very important.
That is the problem. That's a big problem. Correct. I don't know how we're going to revive that.
Correct.
So, makana change to count kuseba talu.
Thank you. Thank you,
sir. Too much. I like the way that all the all wise also Asibo very well. Can do work. And then why you put have to try and cover Ndigbo. So I agree with you. And of course you could transfer of power. I don't want to as Chinabo Internasa Okozoku. All we hear our forefathers say the name all the time. Like here the Kohanese. I don't suppose we need to get our women in. It's true that all our parents were not bad people. All over the world, all cultures, women did not play key role. But today's world, if we can also engender Igbo leadership, very important. And also bring younger people in. Emma Habara was 30-something, 35 or 33. Emma at 30-something. When I go to Ojukwu at what age? Even his father, they are young when they became billionaires. A Canadian, which are young people, Zik of Africa. They are not 50s or more. So I think a deliberate policy of transferring and mentoring young people. And young people are not going to come to power by suddenly 35% back. If you look, people talk about Macron. If you look at the profile of the young leaders in Europe, they started as party policy people, working in cabinet, special advisor. Even one small boy here, so the campaign, and I say, actually, I'm having a commission. Today, a special advisor can have video, they grounded. So that by the time they become commissioner and governor, they will go experience. So what we call our young ones, commissioner, senator, we don't know as party members, we don't know as campaign members, policy people, learn from the other ones. Not just in government, in civil society, everywhere. I mentor young people and I tell them, how can I get my AOA with the World Bank or UN and I put 20,000? No, with filling station and I put 500,000. When I was a fellow at Harvard, they gave me an opportunity to recruit a young research assistant. There was one Indian girl. She wasn't in Harvard school. She was in a different school around Massachusetts. So the girl applied. I took her. Harvard Simba, my Hachoro, a Harvard student. This guy named him so boy said because they are see all in a there's no money. Why are you struggling? The school says you don't belong to Harvard schools. Osimoga, that that time I was a fellow working on Islam and women and human rights. Osimna, if that thing enter her CV, now a research assistant to a fellow at car center, it will give her access. Our people, our young ones, are more concerned with Kehaga. My daughter, Daddy, I want to work in NYC somewhere. I said, why do you want to go to NEC? I said, they pay more. So, child, okay, I'm okay, that's 40,000. I did it, 40,000 for copper. I will pay you every month, but I will send you to go and work with an NGO that is doing real work. So we need to get back to orientation. People every failure, if I know the prayer, what are something else? I also say go on one. Any opportunity, no one. So I like the idea that we should transfer leadership to young ones by bringing them up, not giving them leadership. They now start behaving like old men, even worse than old men. We need to nurture them so that how I carry in the future. I agree with that. And then finally, capacity building. My friend on the IT. Rebuilding Southeast is ensuring that we are number one in the talent fight. If we remain number one, no matter what happens, actually the best bricklayer, actually the best economist, actually the best ICT expert, Nigeria will not but seek us out. Even if they capture the big political office because of number and all the manipulation, they will depend on you. Ndigbo. Why? Because they are the people who had the skills that were needed at that time. So we should not give up on the skill fight. Our people are becoming too despondent. Because they have been in the labor market looking for job, and this charlatan who got third class because only Zamfara. I have a friend, all his children, they are working in public service. I laugh at him, he's a miserable fellow. But for this public service where there's no skill, so they are short-sighted. They are seeing Nigeria of today. They don't see tomorrow. Let's not be like them. Let's not bury our vision within today's context. After night, there will be morning. Let's not pretend as if there is only night. We should be a people who focus on the long term. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please, a round of applause.
I walk I never see beautiful people. If you see me, call me Onyimbo. Makanabu Monibo.